For those of you who don't know Halcyon, the shop, we opened back in '99 as a retail business mixed with the hospitality component. We used to sell beer, wine. We had a small little cafe. The entire place was for sale. We operated like that till about 2005, where we pretty much where we currently solely operate as a retail business. We have been exploring the idea of bringing back this mystery concept with kind of a bigger food and beverage type of program, because that's what people seem to want most and know us most by. Currently, our business, as mentioned, is a brick and mortar store. We sell books, magazines, clothing, music of all sorts, from jazz to techno, but we certainly focus most on electronica, techno, minimal, drum and bass, dubstep, and so on. But we're also curating quite a bit of indie-tronica, and so on and so forth. We have several different buyers that help us. They're key to our business. Each buyer focuses on a specific genre, and they also are, most of them are in charge of supporting a podcast series. We have a podcast every Thursday called Bless Up, which is mainly bass-oriented, dubstep, drum and bass, hip-hop, reggae. It's a mixture of all kinds of sounds. Every other Wednesday, we have the Bandwagon, which is techno, house, minimal mainly, a bit more 4/4. And then we recently started Slow Disco Saturdays, which is more down-tempo disco, new disco, if you will, whatever that means. A lot of these terms get thrown around these days, but it's a Balearic kind of sounds, all usually underneath the 110 BPM. So we have different podcast series. We have a core team of, I guess you could say, full-time employees, and then we have a network of freelancers, permalancers, contributors of all sorts. We are always looking for writers, by the way. We do have a team of writers which help us out with music reviews. Our main website is halcyonline.com. Through that website, we have our publishing portal where we have music reviews, charts that we publish, all sorts of content that's being curated by the entire staff. We publish a newsletter every week that reaches about 15,000 people. And with that, we also have a digital download site that is our, if you will, digital component. And all the digital releases that we have work through a separate shopping cart. And then our physical goods are currently tied into halcyonline.com, and as mentioned initially, that's kind of what we're kind of gearing up. We're just started. We started about a month and a half ago. Currently, that e-com site focuses on a few exclusive products that we have, a few toys. Sandwell District, which I'll talk about a little bit later, is a label that we just have an exclusive on. It's a temporary exclusive. And we have a limited assortment of products. As of this month in February, we're going to start rolling out our the music catalog aggressively. Hopefully we'll have several hundred labels, and throughout the year we're going to keep on rolling out more and more. Part of what we've identified in our business is, or part of what we've seen here in the States, is that there aren't really that many record stores left, let alone those who kind of adopted digital media in all its forms. And there really aren't that many stores in the States that are doing e-commerce, that are actually shipping records that are coming in from all over the world throughout the States. So we have a pretty big opportunity right now to tap into that. And part of why we're looking, and part of what I mentioned initially, part of why we need these exclusive deals is to really give us something to talk about. And what we've learned so far is by having some sort of exclusive content, which this certainly applies to all of you who create content, it's so much easier to get recognition if you're doing something unique, whether it's an exclusive deal, an exclusive track, an exclusive toy for that matter. It's amazing how much difference that makes. So it's been a really interesting challenge. We have a staff of about 10 people right now, and that kind of fluctuates. But it's been a really interesting ride. For us, as of about a couple years ago, we adopted WordPress, and I just kind of have a couple notes here. You guys are welcome to these notes. Be happy to email them to you.
Thank you.
For us, WordPress has been the Uber solution, and I'll just make a quick little parentheses. I teach a digital imaging class at ICP, as well as an online media class for photographers, which applies quite a bit to you guys as artists, or us really, and a WordPress class for photographers, which is also ideal for budding musicians and producers and whatnot.
Do you want to explain what WordPress is?
Yeah, WordPress is a few different things. Most of you guys know it as a blog engine, similar to Movable Type maybe. It's a content management system that allows you to have a blog or potentially manage a website with a lot of content. Think CNN, something like that. although I think that's Drupal or other. That could be you can run content-driven sites with WordPress. And it's actually pretty easy compared to Drupal to have a team of people contribute to that. So we built WordPress, we use WordPress as our platform in order to allow our staff to be involved, because Drupal might be a little bit over their heads. We might eventually move forward on that, but it's been really, really useful. I think it's an uber solution for content, marketing and promotion, social media, and even team management. For those of you guys who are working with musicians around the States, even New York for that matter, or have a lot of people that need to be kind of in the loop, there's a lot of add-ons or plugins, if you will, to WordPress which facilitate communication. It's a really robust tool. It's an open source application or platform that's constantly having all kinds of add-ons incorporated into it.
And it's free.
It's free. Yeah, it's free as long as you know how to install it. Or actually, one thing I had on here, I have no affiliation to any of these companies or websites I might have mentioned, but I recommend GoDaddy. Actually, is a really simple, easy hosting provider for certain types of websites. If you have a small website, if you're on a budget, if you're trying to set WordPress on the fly, they can do that for you, and it costs pretty little compared to what Media Temple might cost, Bluehost, and others. So GoDaddy is a potential solution, and there's many more out there, but that's one that's proven to work decent. Facebook and Twitter are amazing, but it's not enough. I really think artists, promoters, budding entrepreneurs should have a website of their own. I think it's crucial nowadays to have a platform that really speaks to your voice, to your aesthetic, and isn't really dominated, if you will, by Facebook's aesthetic and their tools and whatnot. The cool thing about WordPress is that you can integrate all these social media tools and potentially use it as your main engine to manage content and distribute everything else. There's a series of tools. I'll mention just a couple, especially for the musicians. I highly recommend Blueberry PowerPress. It's a really interesting podcasting tool for those of you who are coming out with releases, mixes, whatnot. It's a free tool that you can install into your WordPress configuration. It allows you to have a player, and in addition, allows you to syndicate your work to, or your feeds to iTunes and a bunch of other music portals. So it's pretty simple to install, I have to say, and it's worked seamless for the kinds of broadcasts that we have. That's Blueberry PowerPress. The other thing, of course, Google Analytics. You want to have your statistics. I highly recommend for those of you who are going to embrace a website or WordPress, collect stats, especially if you're small, because you'll see the progress and you can show progress to prospective partners, contributors, collaborators, sponsors, whatnot. Stats is really the key, I think, to getting financial help sometimes, which, by the way, a little parentheses, Kickstarter.com, for those of you who are looking for ways to get money. That's a platform where you can ask for help, and it doesn't really matter what you're asking for. There's a few guidelines, but that's one thing. So stats is really important. There's no question about it. Prospress. If you guys have products and or things that are really unique that you want to auction off, there's a really interesting auction tool now for WordPress that you can also embed, configure it, and the whole idea of auctioning can get really, really interesting depending on what you're doing. I'll tie the auctioning thing into nonprofit type work. For those of you who have the ability to give a portion of your funds or anything that you can to a charity of sorts, or if you can run an auction of something really cool that you have, whether it's access to a musician because you work at a studio or some unique track or whatever it is, you have 10 vinyl that are super limited, you want to auction these off. Tying yourself to a charity, it could be an amazing way to get press. There's a lot of people out there who pay attention to those kinds of initiatives, and you'll piggyback on their PR and media or I guess networking efforts. So that's something to consider. In terms of marketing and promotion, easy things to do. Collect email lists. I mean, collect as many emails as you can. If you have a concert, if you have a performance, have a clipboard. If you have an iPad and you feel comfortable with it, bring it around, have people sign up your forms. The more you keep them organized, the better it is. The easier it's going to be to tie in or get MailChimp or any of these email deployment companies set up such that you have lists organized by different interests if need be. I have MailChimp on here. It's an amazing platform. Those guys are really, really great, and like Constant Contact and bunch of other services. These guys provide so many tools. Corey already kind of went over that, but these guys have email templates, newsletter templates, which I highly suggest you try out just to stay up to web standards, so that if you do send out a bunch of emails, you don't get blacklisted. Google Docs is a really, really simple and free way to set up a form, an RSVP form, that you can embed into your websites, into a bunch of different places. And if you have multiple people collecting these lists for your DJ gig, your party, whatever, they can access that list instead of you having to download it and send it to them via email. They can download it themselves. It's a really easy tool. And that goes, I guess I should say, Google Apps is something you guys should consider for forms, contact management, so on and so forth. One idea that I heard a few meetings ago that I thought was really, really brilliant, and I think this is something we're going to adopt for a couple initiatives that we have, is if you can, partner with an audio engineer, record your sets live as you have them going on. Doesn't matter if you're a band or a DJ set. And if you can, try to have these ready to give out to the public after the show. There's actually, it's not as complicated as you think, especially for those of you using Serato, Ableton, so on and so forth. There's really easy ways to record your stuff, have these little USB sticks that cost $2 to $4. There's even like old cassette USB sticks. And after the show's ready, you can publish a batch of 25 to 100 of these within an hour, if not half an hour, depending on who's working with you. You can sell them on the spot, and people love unique content. You can embed photographs. If you guys want to give an interview that you include in that USB and give people, it's one way to make yourself unique and to sell something that's not just a music release, because a lot of people want something else. I thought that was a really great idea that Mike brought up. Print collateral, it doesn't cost that much money to print stickers. Business card, of course, is useful. Stickers are great. They're viral. If you have a really cool design, you can stick them up everywhere, have a website on there. I mean, it's amazing how much they work. They've worked for us quite a bit. Setting up YouTube channels. Video is really, really important, and with WordPress, it's quite easy to put up there. The more areas you're inserted, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, the more platforms you're on, video, audio, whatnot, the more you're going to get seen.
Couple more.
Yeah, cool. So, another thing is identify influencers, people, Katie, who have an interest in what you're doing, who can spread the word, who have an audience. That really makes quite a difference. In terms of management and productivity, Basecamp is a really, really interesting platform to manage stuff if you have work projects going on with multiple producers, designers, whatnot. It costs a little bit now, but it's really important. Be humble. If you have people working with you, you're going to have a lot of ego clashes, and try to keep your cool, keep it easy, be the better man if you can, and be realistic with your expectations, especially if you're working with groups. Know who you're working with, and try not to be too unrealistic with that. Create a master document to store all your password info. This sounds trivial. A lot of people forget to do this, but losing information all the time. I mentioned Kickstarter in terms of financials. A couple points real quick. Find a good accountant, especially if you're an independent contractor or a musician or whatever, that understands small businesses. And again, independent contractors, artists, etc. It's huge. It's really important. Get in the habit of doing contracts and invoices. Have stuff in written format, and emails are binding documents. A lot of people forget this. A lot of artists go out there, they're totally unprotected, have no idea what they're doing, and they fail because of that, because they get screwed over all the time. That's pretty much it.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky.
Lots of great advice. We'll have those notes up.